Greetings all. In this video, we are going to discuss one of the most important topic, which is informed consent form, and I will tell you how this, document got originated. You all know about Nazi's trial, and they have done inhuman experimentation. And because of those experimentation, their Nuremberg Code came in, and Nuremberg Code is the one which talks about informed consent form at very first time, right? So later there are a lot of developments, but today I will be sharing to you is that more on a practical aspect. Theory you already know, right? That who can give the informed consent? Is it a participant or parents or legally acceptable representative, and in what conditions they can give the informed consent on behalf of a patient.
Informed consent has two words. The very first is informed, second is consent. So informed means that you are sharing all the information related to clinical trial with the patient. What is that information? That information is risk, what are the key risks of that trial, what are the anticipated benefits, any inconvenience, like maybe you are taking some blood, 2 ml of blood, any other biological sample if you are taking, and how long this clinical trial is, maybe 2 months or 2 years, right? So everything you are informing a patient. Based on this information, patient take their decision, and this means decision means they can disagree as well and they can agree as well, and that is their consent. So that's why it is known as a informed consent. Now there is a process to carry out the whole thing, informing them and knowing their decision, and we will discuss that process as well. Now, what is informed consent? If you wanted to understand, it provides it provides the protection to the subjects. So when Nazis done their trial, afterwards that Nuremberg Code came into, that is the when informed consent was introduced. In the Nuremberg Code, which came in 1947, this informed consent was introduced. The main idea is, Nazis trial, they were very inhuman in nature. They exposed patient to very harsh condition, not only patient, also to the healthy people. Then it is meant to protect the subject, and this protects the autonomy. Autonomy is their rights of the subject. It protects the rights of the subject, that they are informed voluntarily, they are taking participation voluntarily, means with their wish, and they are being informed about all the risk and benefits of the trial. If there is any inconvenience, like it may be an injection for some person, it can be a big inconvenience, that also being informed. Every research required informed consent form. If you are not taking informed consent, it is illegal. Informed consent form should be in a regional translation. Even the dialect of translation should be involved. It is a shared process. Now let's see how this process is carried out. My main idea was to share with you an example who can give the informed consent. So just this, imagine that there is a patient whose name is Rohit. There are many circumstances. So very first, just consider Rohit is not able to read and write. So in other way, you can say illiterate. But that doesn't mean that we should doubt to his mental capability. He is completely mentally capable, right? But he is not able to read and write. So which means we need another person who can assure that this is the correct document. So we need a legally acceptable representative, right? So Mohit can give left thumb impression, basically non-dominating hand, right? So this LAR should be literate and they can sign the consent. That's one process. Another is, just imagine if this Rohit is literate, he can read and write, so that is scenario number 2. He can read and write. He can directly sign and date the informed consent form. So someone from the study team will explain him the informed consent, and he's also able to read and write, and he will sign and date. But remember this, if Rohit says that he can just sign but he can't read it, but that doesn't mean he is counted as a literate person. So that is the scenario in most. There are scenario with many people, where they say that we can sign it, right? Like my grandmom, she was able to sign her, but she was not able to read and write very well. So that means she will also be considered as illiterate, and we need LAR, or literate impartial witness. So another, if LAR is, maybe Rohit along with his father who can read and write, or maybe elder brother, his name is, Sohon, he was able to read and write. So that means he can, he's literate, he will sign. However, if they are also, he said, his father Sohon is also illiterate, he was not able to read and write, then what will happen? Then you need a literate impartial witness. What did this mean by, what you mean by impartial? Who is not associated with trial, with your research. The person who is not associated with your trial, that is known as the impartial. So literate impartial witness is required. So the patient can give their left thumb impression, and this impartial witness can confirm that I have, read on behalf of a patient. Whatever the study team has informed us, the document is saying the same thing, and they can sign. And this patient can, give a thumb impression. Now there is another circumstance also, that is medically incompetent. What meaning is that maybe person is in a coma, right? So they are not conscious. So then also your LAR, legally, so follow this green line, legally acceptable representative, and they will sign. If legally acceptable representative is literate, they will directly sign. However, if that legally acceptable representative is illiterate, then again you need impartial witness. Just like take an example of Seema. She is a married woman, that her husband can be a legally acceptable representative. Now, if her husband is literate and he is able to read, write, and everything, then he can sign it directly. But if he is also said that I don't know, he can give a left thumb impression, but they need impartial witness. Maybe they can bring their neighbor, right? So that that person can sign on a behalf of that, and this person will give their consent once they gain conscious. So once they are medically well, then they will give their consent. That's all. So for the minors also, that you parents or the legal guardians, they can sign and date. But for the minors, we follow two processes. One is consent, which is as the adults they are giving, and the second is assent form. Assent is the child will give. To an extent, he is able to understand. It's sometime in the form of comic or easy video they are being asked. So here you will be following the two processes. One is parents should give consent, and child should give assent. Sorry. So now if parent says no, and children say yes, the final outcome will be no. Now again, if child says yes, parents says, child says say no, parents say yes, again outcome will be no. Both parents and child, both of them should be saying yes, then you only will be able to take a minors in a clinical trial. But in any way, it is not a legally binding document, that you can't say that okay, you sign the informed consent form, now you have to take a part in a clinical trial. Patient can withdraw their consent form at any time. So in a summary, if you see, it is Informed consent form should be very clear, it should be complete, it should follow all the 3 C's. So if you wanted to see the more detail about informed consent form, we have one full video, chapter 2 GCP chapter 2. So there you will be able to see the complete story of informed consent form. So here I really wanted to highlight you the process. This diagram is very crucial. I have bought it from my book on a clinical research, right? I have given a link in a description as well, so you won't get confused. This not only help you to crack an interview, but when you are also in a job, if you are having doubt, you can take a printout of this and paste in front of you, so that if you are confused whom to take a sign, you should be very clear. Thank you so much.